Have you ever felt like your English learning is just a constant battle against your own motivation? You start with so much energy, but after a few days, life gets busy and you just stop. It's a frustrating cycle, isn't it? Many people think they just need more willpower to succeed, but I have a better way for you. What if I told you that you don't need to rely on willpower at all? You can actually master English by designing tiny, consistent habits that fit perfectly into your day. It's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. Listen and repeat. It's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. One more time. Listen and repeat. It's not about working harder, it's about working smarter. As you can see on the screen, we have some key points to guide us through this process. These ideas will help you stop feeling guilty about missed study sessions. They will also help you start building a routine that actually lasts. We are going to look at how to shift your focus and analyze your daily actions. You will also learn to use simple triggers or cues to keep yourself moving forward. I want you to imagine how much easier your life would be. Learning English would feel as natural as brushing your teeth. Let's explore how we can turn your goals into reality one small step at a time. To understand why this is so important, we first need to look at the common problems we all face. Have you ever felt like you just can't stick to your English learning goals? You start with a lot of energy, but after a few days, life gets busy and you stop. It's a very common struggle. Many people try to rely on willpower to keep going, but that often leads to frustration when things don't go as planned. Think about a time you really wanted to improve your English. You decided to study for an hour every single night after work. The first 2 days went great, but by the third day, you were exhausted from your job and just wanted to relax. You felt guilty for skipping your study time, and eventually, you just gave up entirely. I know exactly how that feels, and I want you to know that you are not alone in this. There is a popular book that explains why we often fail when we try to make big changes all at once. When we set goals that are too difficult or require too much energy, we are setting ourselves up to struggle. It's not about your lack of effort, it's about the way we approach the process. Listen and repeat. It's not about your lack of effort, it's about the way we approach the process. One more time. Listen and repeat. It's not about your lack of effort, it's about the way we approach the process. This struggle often deepens when we set goals that are simply too big for our daily lives. Think about the last time you decided to listen to a long podcast every single day, or consider when you decided to read 10 pages of a book. You started with a lot of energy, but then life happened. You had a busy day at work, or you felt tired when you got home. Suddenly, that big goal felt like a heavy weight. You skipped one day, then two, and eventually, you just stopped. It's completely normal to feel frustrated when this happens. Many people go through the exact same experience. For instance, you might have bought a thick English grammar book because you wanted to improve your writing. You told yourself you would study for an hour every evening. For the first 3 days, you did it, but on the fourth day, you had a late meeting and felt exhausted. You looked at that thick book on your desk and just felt overwhelmed. You decided to skip it that night. That one skipped night turned into a week. Then you never opened the book again. Does that sound familiar? It's so easy to set goals that are just too big. When we make our learning goals too difficult, we end up feeling like we failed, even when we're just human. Listen and repeat. When we make our learning goals too difficult, we end up feeling like we failed, even when we're just human. One more time. Listen and repeat. When we make our learning goals too difficult, we end up feeling like we failed, even when we're just human. Now, let's introduce a key idea to solve this. Many people think that learning a language requires a huge amount of willpower. They believe that if they just try harder or force themselves to study for hours, they will eventually succeed. However, relying on willpower is often a recipe for burnout or total exhaustion. Instead of fighting against your own motivation, you can shift your focus to behavior design. This means treating your English practice like a simple system that you build into your day. You can design your learning environment to support your goals. This helps you stop relying on your mood or energy levels to get things done. You create a structure that makes progress feel automatic rather than a constant struggle. Listen and repeat. You create a structure that makes progress feel automatic rather than a constant struggle. One more time. Listen and repeat. You create a structure that makes progress feel automatic rather than a constant struggle. To recap, the core idea is to move away from depending on willpower. Instead, start using smart design to make your English habits stick. Let's look at a quick example of how this works in practice. Imagine you want to improve your vocabulary. Instead of telling yourself that you must study for an hour every night, you could design a system. Keep a notebook right next to your coffee machine. You can make a small change to your surroundings. This makes it much easier to remember to look at one new word while you wait for your coffee to brew. By designing your surroundings, you remove the need for extra effort. You make the habit a natural part of your morning routine. To recap, you can make progress automatic by simply adjusting your environment to support your goals. Listen and repeat. You can make progress automatic by simply adjusting your environment to support your goals. One more time. Listen and repeat. You can make progress automatic by simply adjusting your environment to support your goals. Now, let's look at the B equals MAP formula. It can help you understand why you might struggle with your English practice. Remember that this formula explains how a behavior happens. It requires 3 things to come together: motivation, ability, and a prompt. If you find yourself skipping your study time, one of these parts is likely missing. It might also be that one of them is not working right. Think of it like a simple checklist. Maybe your motivation is high, but the task feels too hard, so your ability is low. Perhaps you have the time to start, but you simply forget because there is no clear prompt or signal to begin. By looking at these 3 pieces, you can stop blaming yourself and start fixing the system instead. Listen and repeat. By looking at these 3 pieces, you can stop blaming yourself and start fixing the system instead. One more time. Listen and repeat. By looking at these 3 pieces, you can stop blaming yourself and start fixing the system instead. For example, if you want to listen to an English podcast but keep forgetting, your prompt is the problem. You can fix this by picking a specific time, like right when you start washing the dishes. That action becomes your trigger. Another example is when you feel too tired to study. Here, your ability is the issue because the task is too big. You can make it easier by just listening to 1 minute of audio instead of a whole lesson. By adjusting these small parts, you make it much easier to keep going. To recap, behavior happens when you have enough motivation, the right ability, and a clear prompt. When you struggle, just check which part of the formula needs a little adjustment. Let's see how this looks in a real-life story. Let me tell you about someone I know. She is a young woman who really wants to improve her English. She works a busy job and often feels tired when she gets home in the evening. Like many of you, she used to have big plans for her learning. She would buy new books or sign up for online courses with a lot of excitement. She truly believed that this time would be different. Every morning, she would tell herself that she would study for an hour after work. She wanted to be better, and she felt ready to put in the effort. However, life often gets in the way. After a long day, the last thing she wanted to do was sit down and study for a full hour. It felt like a heavy task rather than a fun activity. I know how frustrating it feels when you have the desire to learn. You just cannot seem to find the energy to start. She often ended up just scrolling through her phone instead. She felt a bit guilty about not opening her books. It is a very common struggle. I am sure many of you have felt that same weight on your shoulders. This happens when your plans do not match your daily reality. Listen and repeat. This happens when your plans do not match your daily reality. One more time. Listen and repeat. This happens when your plans do not match your daily reality. Think about the last time you tried to start a new English learning routine. You probably felt very motivated at the beginning, right? Maybe you decided to study for an hour every single night after work. You bought a new textbook, cleared off your desk, and felt ready to go. But then, life happened. You had a long day, you felt tired, or maybe you just had too many things to do. When you finally sat down, that hour felt like a mountain you had to climb. You looked at the book, felt overwhelmed, and decided to just skip it for one night. That one night turned into 2, then 3, and soon you stopped completely. It is a very common experience, and you are certainly not alone in feeling this way. It is frustrating when your best intentions do not turn into the results you want. You might feel like you just lack the discipline to keep going, but that is not the truth. When you look back at those moments, how did it feel to realize you had missed another day? It often feels like a heavy weight, doesn't it? That feeling of disappointment can make it even harder to start again the next time. It is important to recognize that this struggle is not about your character, but about how the goal was set. Listen and repeat. It is important to recognize that this struggle is not about your character, but about how the goal was set. One more time. Listen and repeat. It is important to recognize that this struggle is not about your character, but about how the goal was set. So, let's look at how she actually changed her routine. Remember, she was struggling to find time for English every day. Instead of trying to force herself to study for an hour, she decided to use an anchor. Think of an anchor as a hook for your habits. She picked a simple daily habit she already had, making her morning coffee. She told herself the moment she hears the coffee machine start, she will open her English app. That is it. That is the anchor. She attached her new learning habit to something she already does without thinking. This removed the need for her to find extra motivation. When the coffee machine started, she just opened the app. That was her trigger. It was not about studying for a long time. It was about connecting the new action to a stable part of her day. This simple shift made starting much easier because the prompt was already there, waiting for her. To recap, an anchor is just a stable daily routine you use to trigger a new learning behavior. Try attaching your English practice to something you already do. You could pair it with habits like drinking coffee or brushing your teeth. This makes it much easier to stay consistent. She found that using this method helped her stop relying on willpower. She started building a real and lasting habit instead. It really is that simple. You just need to find your anchor and let it do the work for you. Listen and repeat. You just need to find your anchor and let it do the work for you. One more time. Listen and repeat. You just need to find your own anchor and let it do the work for you. After she started with that tiny step, everything changed for her. She realized that she did not need a massive amount of time or energy to make progress. By focusing on just one small action, she felt a sense of control she never had before. She stopped waiting for the perfect moment to study. Instead, she created her own success through consistency. This shift in her approach made her feel much more confident. She learned that she could still do something small to keep her English skills alive. She could do this even on her busiest days. It was not about being perfect or studying for hours every single day. It was about showing up for herself, even if it was just for a few minutes. She looked back at her journey. She saw that her small, consistent actions had built a strong foundation. She no longer felt guilty about missing a long study session. She knew she had kept her promise to herself. This realization gave her the freedom to enjoy the process of learning. She finally understood that real growth comes from the small, steady steps we take every day. Listen and repeat. Real growth comes from the small, steady steps we take every day. One more time. Listen and repeat. Real growth comes from the small, steady steps we take every day. It is truly amazing how much you can achieve when you stop trying to do everything at once. You can make great progress by just focusing on doing one tiny thing well. Now let's talk about how you can actually start building these habits. The secret is to make your goals so small that they feel almost silly. You want to scale your English practice down to a tiny behavior. This ensures you can do it even on your busiest or most tired days. Here are the first 2 steps to get you started. First, pick a very simple action. For example, instead of planning to study for an hour, just commit to reading one single sentence in English. That is it. Second, make sure this action takes less than 30 seconds to complete. Keep the task this small to remove your psychological resistance. This helps you overcome the mental block that usually stops you from starting. It is much easier to convince yourself to read one sentence than to sit down for a long study session. By focusing on such a tiny action, you guarantee that you will show up for yourself every single day. This is how you build real consistency without needing a huge amount of willpower. You are simply making it impossible to fail because the bar is set so low. Once you start with these tiny steps, you will find that it becomes much easier to keep going. Just remember, the goal here is to show up, not to do everything at once. Small, consistent actions are the foundation of your long-term success. Listen and repeat. Small, consistent actions are the foundation of your long-term success. One more time. Listen and repeat. Small, consistent actions are the foundation of your long-term success. Now, let's look at the third step to make your learning stick. It is all about celebrating your success immediately after you finish your tiny action. When you read just one sentence or listen to 1 minute of a podcast, take a moment to feel good about it. You can simply smile, say "great job" to yourself, or give yourself a mental high five. This feeling of success is what actually wires the habit into your brain. Sometimes you might feel like you did not do enough because the action was so small. You might think, is this really helping? That is a common obstacle. The trick is to remember that your brain cares more about the feeling of success than the size of the task. Listen and repeat. Your brain cares more about the feeling of success than the size of the task. One more time. Listen and repeat. Your brain cares more about the feeling of success than the size of the task. If you feel successful, you will want to do it again tomorrow. So do not skip this part. Even if it feels a little silly at first, just take that second to celebrate. This is a powerful way to turn your daily practice into a positive experience. You will actually look forward to it. You might be wondering what to do when life gets really busy. Sometimes, even with the best plans, you just feel like you cannot keep up with your English goals. When that happens, please remember that your progress does not depend on how much willpower you have today. It is not about your strength of will. Instead, it is all about your system. If you miss a day, do not be hard on yourself. Just look at your environment and see if you can make your next step even smaller. Maybe you can just listen to 1 minute of a podcast while you wait for your coffee. You could also learn a single new word during that time. By focusing on these tiny, manageable actions, you keep the momentum going without feeling overwhelmed. It is not about being perfect every single day. Consistency is about making your practice very easy. Listen and repeat. Consistency is about making your practice very easy. One more time. Listen and repeat. Consistency is about making your practice very easy. You should be able to do it even on your most tired days. You are building a habit that lasts, and that is a huge win for your journey. Trust the process, keep your actions small, and celebrate every time you show up for yourself. Let's quickly look back at what we covered to build your English habits. First, remember that you don't need to rely on willpower alone. Instead, you can design a simple system that makes learning happen naturally. Second, use the BMAP formula to check your habits. If you miss a day, ask yourself if you had a clear prompt. Consider whether the task was easy enough or if you needed more motivation. This helps you fix the problem instead of feeling bad. Third, attach your English practice to an anchor. You can link your learning to a daily routine, like drinking your morning coffee. This creates a reliable trigger that reminds you to start. Fourth, scale your goals down to tiny behaviors. When you feel tired, just read one sentence or learn one new word. Keeping it incredibly small helps you stay consistent even on your busiest days. Listen and repeat. Keeping it incredibly small helps you stay consistent even on your busiest days. One more time. Listen and repeat. Keeping it incredibly small helps you stay consistent even on your busiest days. Finally, celebrate your success immediately after you finish. That quick feeling of accomplishment is what builds the habit in your brain. You are doing great by focusing on these small, steady steps. Keep going, because these tiny actions are exactly how you reach your bigger goals. Think about the last time you tried to learn something new. Maybe you started with a lot of energy, but after a few days, that feeling faded away. It is completely normal to feel that way. Many people believe that they just need more willpower to succeed, but that is not the secret. You do not need to force yourself to work harder or feel guilty when you miss a day. Instead, look at your daily life as a system you can design. Make your English practice so small that it feels almost too easy. By doing this, you remove the need for extra motivation. You stop relying on how you feel in the moment and start relying on a simple, reliable plan. Believe in the power of these tiny, consistent actions. When you focus on just one small step, you are building a foundation that lasts. You are not just learning a language, you are creating a new version of yourself, one tiny habit at a time. Listen and repeat. You are not just learning a language, you are creating a new version of yourself, one tiny habit at a time. One more time. Listen and repeat. You are not just learning a language, you are creating a new version of yourself, one tiny habit at a time. You have the ability to make this change, and you deserve to see your own progress. Take it one day at a time and keep your actions small. Trust that these little moments will add up to something truly wonderful. You are doing great, and every single step counts toward your goal. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I truly hope these small, practical steps help you build a more consistent learning routine. I hope this routine fits perfectly into your life. If you found